Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday Night Music Show brought to you by DJ Event Planner, www. Like you gotta really do you still have to do that anymore?
Yeah.
You can just do DJEventPlanner.com and it's fine. You don't have to do the www anymore.
Well,
Kind of like some old guy.
DJE and it comes up. Yeah, it's already there.
HTTP : no
backslash. Yeah.
Check out DJ Event Planner. They are a sponsor. Thank you very much. You can learn more about them in the description of this video, as well as look for other sponsors. And Eric's going to be mad at me tonight because we're not doing the wheel game tonight because I wasn't prepared for it. Not because I'm mad at you or don't want to do what I said I was going to do. I just wasn't prepared, Eric. So we're just doing a regular show.
All right, that's fine.
All right. Eric from New Hampshire's with us. No more hamster jokes. I've done too many of those.
No,
we're going to knock it off with the hamster jokes. We'll come up with something else about New Hampshire.
There we go.
Yeah.
And we have Matt from Georgia Matt, which is what I call him because for some reason I can't master saying Ames. So
yes.
Yeah.
DJ
and
Matt Ames.
Howie Darkstar.
hey, folks.
The rock star, the porn star, Howie Darkstar is here with us. Boston John is here with us. Pastor Jay. Violent J tonight.
I'm good.
That's good. So I got a topic for tonight, and I'll leave you in suspense on that. We'll talk about that later. First, let's do Boston John's Record Roundup. Where we introduce our audience to a record we just think you might enjoy. I haven't picked mine yet, but by the end of this round, I will pick it.
Sounds good,
John.
Well, I came up with one that I think was created a new term in the vocabulary of music that hadn't existed before. We had groups growing up. We had the Jackson 5 and we had the Osmonds, and they were just bands.
Mm-hmm.
They were just groups. And all of a sudden, something happened in the 80s, probably between 84 and 88, where the groups were specifically named boy bands.
Right.
We never called the Osmonds boy bands, and it was all a bunch of brothers, Monkeys, any of them, Delphonics, any of these groups. It was never a phrase that was used.
Jackson
and then
5.
Suddenly, they were just a group. They weren't considered a boy band. And then this group came along, somewhere between this and I would say New Edition, because I think the younger the group was, the more that it became a boy band. It was younger people.
Mm-hmm.
So this was 1988, and the group is New Kids on the Block, Boston Zone. Little 617 love there. I've actually met a few of them because they were local kids, and they were my age growing up. Suddenly, the wave of boy band began, and then, as I say, it's more about the category and less so much about the group because they did a couple of good records. This was the first one. It had it's got The Right Stuff, which was the big hit. A couple of ballads.
Go Girl.
Please Don't Go Girls on here. So 1988 was this. So what then followed then was, the groups like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, like down the road.
Much later.
Menudo was considered boy band, even though it had rotating members, right?
Yeah.
And this stuff, the reason why I bring this up as a category is when I used to do a lot more with schools, like this would be the stuff that made all the little girls scream when you played stuff like this.
Yeah.
So, me being, 17, 18 and being a DJ and playing to my own age group, this just had some sort of an appeal that I couldn't understand. I didn't understand what the draw was. And they tried to get, good looking boys, good looking kids to be in this group. So they were the replacements for the Sean Cassidy posters and the Leif Garrett from back in the 70s. The fan mags or whatever.
Yeah, kind of the tween heartthrobs.
Yeah, and it was a staple. And they were good for a while. And then the women of the culture came up and became the icons. That's why we have the Taylor Swifts, for example. And I'll name drop her just because she was in town and she sold out Foxborough Stadium 3 nights in a row. Did one show in the pouring rain. So 80,000 people in 3 days. that's what they're gravitating to these days. I mean, I don't know if the days of NSYNC and Backstreet are gone, but a lot of those guys moved on to some solo careers that were pretty huge. You'd get Justin Timberlake, namely, and from the NSYNC crowd, Joey Fatone does some television. I mean, so there's a handful of them. Of the five, there's maybe a couple of names I know of each, but that's some stuff you should have in your library if you're doing older parties. Now, I graduated in '87 out of high school, and that's all we had at that point. It was Backstreet Boys was the boy band, New Edition, Musical Youth, those type groups, and that just was the music of the generation. So I encourage you to do a little bit of a deep dive and look into adding some of those to your catalog, because they're just, at the time they were current, but now as throwbacks. If you play into somebody your own age, I guess we'll in sync land, like mid to late 90s.
Yeah, that's
same with Backstreet's Back, everybody, right? Those tunes. So that's my pick. So it's just a little nod to the boy band groups, and to make sure you get some of those in your catalog, especially if you play in schools.
I have some thoughts on that.
They're on tour now, by the way.
Pardon?
Yeah.
They're on tour. They're playing out here to I don't know if they've sold out, but it's like a 17,000 seat arena they're playing out here. So
decent size.
Wow.
And they play Vegas a lot with NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys because they figured they can fill a theater pretty quickly as a resident. They had a residency, I think, last year. It was like New Kids, NSYNC, and without Justin.
That would make sense, because there was about a 10-year gap between those. So that's a whole decade of age ranges.
Boyz II Men. I just thought of it. I think it was Boyz II Men, NSYNC,
that makes sense.
On the block.
There was someone in Safe House recently from Georgia who had gone to a show down there and was telling me about it. And I did play some New Kids on the Block for them. So yeah, I mean, this was like 2 weeks ago, if that. Maybe last week I played some New Kids on the Block. So I remember when this stuff was hot, when I was actively playing it and doing things like schools, that was the songs that the girls wanted to hear.
Right.
But I also remember a really heavy backlash where it was rejected, like heavily rejected, because I think that there was like a bit of an oversaturation of them, kind of like Michael Jackson, for a while there after Thriller. It was just, too much is too much. We don't want to hear about, or the Bee Gees in the 70s. Just too much is too much. And there was one girl who requested a New Kids on the Block song, and I just knew that if I played it at that point, it was probably 90, there'd be a riot. It would just have gotten nasty if I would have played it. So I didn't know what to do. So I just gave her the record. I'm like, here, just take the record. That was my way of getting around causing any problems. But I will also say that we had a station here, and I don't know what the format was. I know you guys probably know. They called it Hot 102, and it was everything R&B, freestyle, dance. It was that kind of stuff back in those days. They played a wicked remix of The Right Stuff on there that was really, really, really good. And I've heard it on YouTube a couple times. Really a good song. I don't know if it was the official 12-inch or something else. John, maybe you know?
I never got a remix of it. I had pretty good success with the straight up version, but I'm sure they exist.
It was good. After the show, if you're interested, I'll find it on YouTube, because it's really, really, sometimes remixes just bring it to another level. And that's the one they always played, and I thought it was wonderful. And they pitched it up a little bit too, which probably didn't hurt.
I think you need to be relative to the fact that I remember leaving Mass in '93, and New Kids on the Block sold out Gillette Stadium that year. They weren't relevant anywhere else, I don't think. But Boston, they support their own big time. So John playing a non-remix of them, to me, makes perfect. Like if you tried to remix Sweet Caroline for a gig in Boston, they'd kill you.
Yeah,
it wasn't like
taken outside,
like unrecognizable. It was a little funkier.
I think I think it would be something today to have, because people accept the remixes easier. That I think that would be something we should all probably look at and say, hey, I'm going to get a request, or maybe I can slide this in at a gig anyway.
Who's next? Jay, would you like to go next? Do you have something for us you'd like to talk about?
Sure. Well, on the exit of EDC again, I have gone a little more dancey, and I decided I would go back to the amazing artist Joel Zimmerman, aka
Ooh.
Deadmau5.
Deadbound.
We're going to go for random album title, which introduced the world to my favorite EDM song of all time, I Remember.
I remember with Kiss.
I Remember, to me, in my opinion, today is still, and I would argue this with anyone, is the best EDM song of all time,
Mhm.
in my opinion. I know there's 1,000 songs that are, people would say are better, but the original 9.5 minute mix of it, it's just amazing. And every time I've ever played it, and I play it a lot, people respond, oh my God, I love this song.
Yeah.
That's all I ever hear. Oh, I love this. I love this.
Yeah.
When did it hit? When was it?
2008 is when it came out.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's about right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I mean, the other
Feels
big
about
track
right, yeah.
on there is Faxing Berlin, which is a really good song. Really good song. But, Deadmau5 has a following. I mean, he didn't play EDC this year, but he definitely has a style. He's very analog. He's
Sure.
very into synth, very Moog oriented, very, patches, and an interesting artist. I mean, he's a young, geeky kid,
Was.
that
Yeah.
was, yeah, no. And I actually met him in 08. I've met him about 4 times, but I met him for the first time in Miami in 08. And because of the mouse head, like nobody at this party knew who the hell he was.
Right.
And it was one of those, like, it was still so new. They just didn't buy that was him. And because Christian knew of him well enough to know what he looked like. And he's like, yeah, that's Deadmau5. I'm
Was
like,
he tatted up back then?
What's that?
Was he tatted up back then at all?
Not like he is now. No.
Okay.
No, he didn't have any neck tattoos or anything.
Okay.
That came after the success started, and he got the weird tattoos of his cat and like
Going up his neck or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one in his neck, I think, from like Galaxian or one of those like video games. Then there's a bunch of hearts on his arm that are cut, and I spoke with a DJ at NAMM, DJ Arrow, who's Tommy Lee's DJ. And Tommy Lee tours all the time still as a DJ act, where Tommy's doing pads, and he has this great DJ Arrow. They have a new group that has Steve Doda and Deadmau5 in it called WTF.
Wow.
They're going to start putting product out. So it's the 4 of them.
Wow.
And it'll be interesting to see, because Joel has been doing a minimal tech. If you're into minimal tech, and if you don't know what that is, look it up, because it's very soothing. It's kind of softer house music. And he has a second artist thing that he does called, Test Pilot. And it's Deadmau5, but he's doing just minimal tech. And he'll show up places sometimes and just DJ and do his tech set. And it's kind of cool.
Right on. No,
Real quick, he won Best DJ Award at the Dance Awards in Miami. Brian, I can't for the life of me remember what they're called. IMCs or IMCAs, or it's every year in Miami during Miami Music Week, they do these awards.
Okay.
And it's kind of voted on through the magazines and
Right.
DJ Mag in Europe and all that. And he won Best DJ, and he came up and he's like, or Best US DJ. He won Best US DJ. And he came up and in typical Joel fashion, because he's a wise ass to no end. It's like, yeah, I just want to thank everyone. I just would like to remind you, I am Canadian and I'm not a DJ. Thank you. Appreciate it. And he walked away because he's technically not a DJ.
He's a producer. Yeah.
He's an electronic performer.
Right.
He uses DJ equipment, but he's a performer. Like things, he's on Ableton, he's like, everything's MIDI mapped, and he knows what he's doing, but he probably could DJ. And I've seen him do like CDJs without a computer, and he's fine. Like, he can do it, but he doesn't call himself a DJ. He gets kind of pissy about that. So, but yeah, that's my call for the night.
Nice.
All right.
What do you got, Matt?
I have
And this young lady, I say young lady, oh my gosh, I'm 37 and I think she's like maybe 28, 29. So
That's still young.
relatively, yeah. But I mean, she is sort of in the vein of an Amy Winehouse. I discovered her on YouTube last week, and apparently she's been around quite a while, but recently had her debut LP. She is from South London. Amazing singer-songwriter named Ray. Have any of y'all heard of Ray before? Okay, well, this album, and of course it didn't do that. Raye. And I was going to do the Apple Music animation on the album here. There it goes with the mouth and everything.
Nice.
Way cool how they do that. But the album is called My 21st Century Blues. So Ray, Raye, highly recommend it. And also I recommend watching, there's a couple of different concerts of her floating around on YouTube, but the one where I discovered her, it was actually on the NPR channel. It came up on my suggestions, and it was a Tiny Desk concert, which those in and of themselves are just magnificent for any artist typically. So definitely worth checking out. But My 21st Century Blues by Ray, recommend it. It's good sounds. It's good. If you're doing weddings, it's good dinner music, good cocktail music. Some of the subject matter might not be the best for weddings. Just very raw and real type material.
Nice. Something new for you, Keith.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She's in some dance tunes too. I know she's got some stuff that's up in the 128 land that I've played.
Stuff with David Guetta and others, right?
Can't think of it, but
Howie, what do you have for us?
I am, since I went 2022 the last time, I'm going back to 1994 with 9 Inch Nails, which everyone knows is just Trent Reznor, basically.
Right.
And the album is called The Downward Spiral. And the reason I picked that is in my opinion, there's not a bad song on that album. It's maybe not something you would play at a wedding or an event, but for pleasure listening, for me, that industrial sound was just amazing, with Mr. Self-Destruct and, of course, Hurt, which now Johnny Cash is known for. It's basically his song now. But anyway, I went down the rabbit hole of industrial rock, and that's my pick.
Does that have Something I Can Never Have, or is that is that is that on that album? Something I Can Never Have. That's a beautiful song.
Yeah, the whole, I don't know.
Yeah,
my taste, there isn't a bad song on the album.
Yeah, I agree.
So
that has Pig and Head Like a Hole.
Yeah, Head Like a Hole. Yeah.
Pig. Yeah,
that was Pretty Hate Machine, right?
Yeah.
Or was that?
Head Like a Hole was
this one has Closer on it, though. The one Howie's talking about.
Yeah, Downward Spiral's got Closer.
Closer
okay.
as well. Yeah.
Anyway, gosh, I tell you, it's rare. Even guitar solos, I feel like that guy's music tells a story.
It does. The thing I really like is that when he composes everything, he plays all the instruments, and then if he has to go on tour, he gets hired guns. They rehearse and then they go out and play. He's never had the same lineup ever. The same.
He's had that guitar player for a long time. The guy that played with Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, I was just going to say the only one who would be consistent would be that guitar player, and I can't remember his name.
It escapes me too. It's like a single name.
Buckethead?
No, Buckethead never played in 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He played with Guns. Actually, Josh Freese drummed for a couple albums with Trent for 9 Inch Nails. He's just been announced yesterday as the new drummer for Foo Fighters.
What?
Josh Freese. Yeah, they're going to tour again. Like they've got a new album coming out. They're going to tour the whole deal. It's Josh Freese, and he's played with literally everyone. it's ridiculous to look at who he's, The Offspring, The Vandals, Nine Inch Nails, like, and 8 other groups I'm forgetting.
Yeah.
So last but not least, Eric, you got a cool album for us?
All right. I'm going to go real old school with this one. And I really like back in the 80s when we were doing a lot of weddings.
All right.
Used vinyl at the time. I remember the album. It was the soundtrack. It was orange with white lettering, maybe a picture of an old Chevy or something on. It was called American Graffiti, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Every wedding, we would have to pull this out. I mean, there was a lot of hits on there. I think it was a 2-album set. Too. It was
It was too. Yeah.
It was.
like songs like At the Hop, I Only Have Eyes for You. Just things that, you know, would really get the party going. Not only If I Had Eyes for You, it would pack the floor for a slow song, but, you know, back then.
Yeah.
I don't know how it work today, but it depends on the crowd. In fact, I booked a 75th birthday party 2 days ago, and I think I'm going to have to take the cobwebs off that. But that's my pick, my final answer.
Oh,
That's
good pick.
Great record.
Good pick.
I thought he was going to push chips and say, I'm all in.
I'm all
I have a good news and bad news thing before I get into my record here, and I just discovered the bad news as Howie was talking about his pick, what I was doing, it sucks bad. So here's the good news. Here's the really good news. Leonid and Friends is coming to Milwaukee,
But it's sold out.
and they're playing at the historic Pabst Theater, which is right across the street from Safe House.
Whoa.
Okay.
Nice.
Whoa.
I wonder where they're going to go after the gig.
You can come over and see him because he's probably working.
Well-
That's what I was going to say. That would be the bad news.
It
Yes.
was just announced. This was just announced. And I'm gigging that night.
No, I
Wedding.
knew that was the bad news. I
have a giant wedding.
Oh,
Oh.
Is my highest grossing wedding I've ever booked. And
Wow.
it was on that night. So I'm going to have to find an alternate city. But yeah, the Palace would have been a really cool place to see Leonid and Friends. But anyway, so this is my good news, bad news. My album, I'm going to go with something that doesn't have a bad song on it. And I'm not going to build it up too much. It is Elton John's greatest hits.
Yep.
The first Elton John's greatest hits.
Yep.
Yes.
This is relevant today.
71
for you
to
guys.
76.
It's got to be. Let me get my glasses on. It has. Well, maybe even earlier.
Yeah,
than that.
I remember I saw something this week about that is one of the top 10 selling albums of all time.
1974,
All
which
time.
makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
because I don't really remember a time when this wasn't in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 1974. I'm just going to give you the track listing. Your Song. Come on.
Right.
Daniel, which is a funny one for me because my brother's name is Dan. So
That's a heavy song though. Oh my
yeah, I know, but sometimes I'd answer the phone, I'd just say, "Hey, Daniel, my brother, you are older than me. Do you still feel the pain?" Because
Oh my God.
Honky Cat,
Yeah.
Goodbye Yellow Brick Road,
Mhm.
Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting,
Mhm.
Rocket Man,
Ooh.
Benny and the Jets, Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me,
Wow.
Border Song, and Crocodile Rock. Come on.
And he left probably 20 songs that I can think of off.
off. Yeah.
Well,
It could have been a double album. Yeah.
Burn Down the Mission,
Greatest hits too. Leave on,
oh,
Tiny Dancer.
Time. Was that after Madman Across the Water?
what was on Mad Men Across the Water?
Leave On, Madman Across the Water, Mad Hatters.
I think that came after.
Lisa's Mad Hat.
Did that come
That
after?
might be later.
But there was a Greatest Hits Volume 2, Greatest Hits Volume 3. Probably
Oh,
Volume
yeah.
4.
It's kept coming. Yeah, for sure.
Well, he put out an album a year for like the first 4 years or something, like 70 to
Mhm.
74. He was like literally album a year came out,
Yeah.
and they were all great. Tumbleweed was great. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road was great. I mean,
I only mention this because
tracks.
it's still so relevant. I mean,
It is.
if you're only looking for mobile DJ music, you might want to have
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
It's like
The only one that I've
Collection.
like never played at a gig is probably Border Song. I've played everything else at a gig. That's
Yeah.
on this album
Mm.
at one time or another. And I could drop them at any time and nobody would look at me funny.
Well,
You know?
we actually had a giant. It has a 600 car parking lot in my area called Crocodile Rock. Was the name of the
Oh, yeah.
venue. Yeah, and it was just, I mean, unbelievable. That was the place to go to see people and good music. You know.
I know in the old days, and I'm talking about this very record that I have in my hand, not a record like it, but this is the family's copy that was bought new at the store.
Oh wow!
This came from the stash I grabbed from Mom's house. I rated her records, and this was one of her records, and she bought it new.
Well, it's probably first printing then.
Yeah, but it's a drop the needle, listen to side A
Oh yeah,
all the way, drop the needle.
Yeah, no skips.
The whole
all the way
no
through.
skips.
Mm.
every
Yeah.
track.
Perfect record.
That's
Yeah,
a
every
great
track.
pick.
And
Great
that's really as good as it gets. I
Yeah.
mean, as far as the picks, when you got one where you just don't, there's a plenty of great albums out there where there's like 4 songs that are so strong, fine. The other ones are kind of filler, but yeah, I mean, it's the greatest hits. It's kind of cheating at this point, but they really are great.
They
Yeah.
are though.
And
I mean-
there's ballads, there's rock, there's pop, and
For sure. And that's old Elton, because then there was that 80s period of Elton when he was cranking hits. And then there's that Disney period of Elton when he was cranking
Yeah.
hits. So
Right.
it just never ended.
Man.
And can you think of a better combination of two people that put out that many hits? Bernie Taupin
Yeah.
wrote the lyrics first, and then Elton John would write the music,
right.
and they're still doing it.
Yeah.
He did. There's a great
Incredible.
video of him on YouTube where he had a piano on stage and he was taking questions from people and he explains the process. And he goes, I just have all these songs in my head. He goes, just, somebody in the audience, give me some words. Open a book. And this kid who'd asked the question said, I have a book. What is it? It's from my English lit class. Okay, open it, turn to any page and give me a couple lines. So he did.
Wow.
And literally right in front of the crowd, Elton John, they gave him the book with the 2 lines and Elton John made a song and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
But he without even a thought, created this intro and started playing and sang the lines from the book. And it sounded like an Elton fucking John song. It's like, what the hell is he doing?
How do you do
But
that?
he said that he just has that ability.
Mhm.
I think like a Barry Manilow type thing where it's a constant, like, here's music. I can do this. There's no problem.
It's just what
they've
I do.
mastered their instrument and what do you want? Here you go.
And lyrics are great and all. I mean, great lyrics, fine. But there are some lyrics that are kind of weird. It's all in the delivery and the cadence, and that's all Elton John.
That's the part that's so talented, though.
Yeah.
That's what you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he just got a piece of paper. Like, look at Tiny Dancer. I mean,
right.
Tiny Dancer's written, like, I believe about a girlfriend and, this and that.
Yeah.
And she seamstress for the band, but it's his delivery of it that's just,
Yes.
but you get those rare times. Geddy Lee delivers every song from Rush amazingly, and he wrote none of the words. That was all Neil
Right, that was
Peart.
Neil Peart.
That was all Neil. Yeah.
The band Squeeze, Chris Difford and Glenn Tilbrook. Difford, I believe, is the guy that sings Only Cool for Cats. He writes all the lyrics. Glenn Tilbrook, the good-looking lead singer playing guitar who sings amazing, he's singing another guy's words and doing it incredibly well.
Yeah.
And convincingly, like Tempted and all the other good stuff.
Oh,
that they
yeah.
did. Yeah.
There's no question it's coming from the heart, everything he's saying, and yet he didn't write them. I think that's a talent that's often overlooked in music.
Yeah.
The ability to deliver. Frank Sinatra didn't write a song, folks. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
Never.
Tony Bennett didn't write a song, anybody. Like Tom Jones didn't write music. These guys that have really got that skill and talent could deliver someone else's words.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't know. We could go on about that. I mean, there are so many. I'm thinking about all the Jennifer Warren stuff. It's so sappy, but acts like Tony Braxton and Aerosmith know how to
Killed it.
make the lyrics work,
Killed it.
Mm.
Yeah.
and there's talent
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Lyricism's great, and poetry is wonderful and all that. But if you just read some of the stuff that she wrote, it's like, come on. But then the way, like, Tony Braxton delivers "Unbreak My Heart," wow.
Mm-hmm.
Or the crushes that.
The way Aerosmith delivers "Don't Want to Miss a Thing."
Yep.
It's just,
Yeah.
that is
100%.
amazing to me. Absolutely amazing.
One of my favorites by Elton John, I think, is "Empty Garden."
Empty Garden.
It's a great song about John Lennon.
Lennon, yeah.
Yeah.
The one I like is Weird. I mean, I like a lot of them, but the standout one for me is one that didn't get a lot of attention. It's off of his, I think it's maybe a 2002 album or something like that, called Songs from the West Coast. And it's called "I Want Love." It's
The one with Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. is lip syncing in the video. Yes.
in the video. Yeah, that's a great song.
That was like out of the park, after like this, 30-year career, he comes up with that. And I'm like, whoa, that's cool. That's
such
cool.
a great song. And he did it so convincingly. I thought he was singing it at first. I'm like, Robert Downey Jr. singing an Elton John song? Like,
It's an older Elton John with a different tone of voice, but it's good. It's not young Elton, it's older Elton singing it.
Right.
And he's not trying to hit a note anywhere. It's just an honest, cool song, and I really like it. I don't know, it's just a standout for me.
Right.
That's, to me, this early stuff, and then going forward, in the 2000s, him doing something like that, yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
I can forgive all the Disney stuff. That was actually
Disney
really
fan.
good. So
Yeah, Disney.
Yeah.
I take a
Around the
pass
time.
on the Disney stuff.
I'm like the one and
$10. You got to do what you got to do.
this train don't stop here anymore. I mean, that was
all
powerful
do
shit.
it.
Oh, and the thing that people don't realize now, because they're too young, most of the audience, it seems, Elton John said back, what was it? Was it 90 or 89? That all the sales from any of his American singles would go to his AIDS Foundation. So all the sales in America from those songs, he's been donating that money. That's not his money anymore.
You had mentioned that before. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It hasn't been for all that time. So I think that's, he deserves a big prop on that. Interesting fact, he does not own a cell phone.
No
Doesn't have to.
kidding.
He's got people around him.
Does
with
not
them.
carry a cell phone. He does not own a cell phone. His attitude is, everyone around me has a phone. If I need to call someone, I'll call them.
Yeah,
But if you want to sit down and call Elton John, you call him, as Ed Sheeran said on Howard Stern a couple weeks ago, you call him on the landline at his house.
well,
Because he can't be bothered to have a cell phone.
Christopher Walken does the same thing.
Yeah, like why you really need
I don't
to
need
be,
a phone. There's people around me who have phones. I don't.
Look at the romance of the 70s and the 80s when you walked around cities and looked at things instead of staring at your phone like, oh, I got a text. I wonder what's going on in the chill room. Let me go like hop off this life journey of being in New York City and see what's happening. Like, no, I kind of miss those days, a little bit.
Sometimes I accidentally forget my phone.
I forgot it the other day in the car at EDC and had to walk a mile and a half back to get it because I had to take photos. I had to text people. I had, it was the worst feeling. I'm like 97 degrees walking in the sun in the desert to get a phone out of the car. And I was swearing and spitting the whole time. Like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? I should just go back to the hotel. Like, it was crazy.
You probably did your phone a favor getting it out of that heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did, but I told John this.
I pillowed,
Well, yeah. I told John this, and Brian, you've been to South Point, and Howie, you've been to South Point.
Yeah.
In the parking lot in the front, up at the very front of the parking lot, right on the strip, I parked there at the last Mech show with Christian, walked up to the room, got in the room, touched my right pocket, and realized, oh my God, my phone is in the car. Let me go down 12 stories, walk through the lobby, walk across the parking lot, get my phone out of the stupid phone thing that Connor bought me that I asked for, but I forgot it in the car, and walk all the way back. And of course, no messages, no calls. The world didn't
Nobody wanted you.
implode in the
Yeah.
The brief moment of not having it.
And it's 150 degrees inside the car, and the phone's going, "Get me out of here!"
Yeah.
I should be with him. Where's my human? Yeah.
I've been talking about this car build I've been doing with my brother. I've been on it for about 3 weeks now with him. Well, a little over 2, I guess. Yeah, going on 3. But anyway, I said that, I'm going to take all these pictures and I'm going to do video. I haven't done any of that. Because we've been in the moment the whole time.
Exactly.
It hasn't been time to do it. And it's a nice feeling. It's a real nice feeling. Hoping mom sneaks a picture here and there that we don't know about. Because it's just cool to be in the moment and get work done. But I appreciate the phone too. I do. I really do. But I totally get your point. 100%.
It's a pain. I regret today driving home. I regret not going into the do not disturb and checking the I'm driving part and just saying, like, you know what? If you call or text me, you're going to get an immediate response saying, sorry, I'm driving. I'll answer this when I get back.
Right.
But we as DJs are oftentimes, you can't excuse out with, oh, I didn't get this. I mean, I'm sure you've all lost a gig the way I have, where you get a text at 6 p.m. and you respond the next morning and say, sorry, I didn't see this. And you get this quick response of like, oh, no problem. It's okay. We ended up finding somebody anyway. It happened to me a couple of times. Because that other person, who's obviously a loser and has no life, sitting by the phone
tethered to his phone. Yeah.
And apparently is just, going to screw your day up. And I feel bad for you, but that's okay. No.
So,
but I mean, look at what we do in it. We're sending money around now. I mean, did you think really 10 years ago, you'd be talking to a client and 10 seconds later, you'd get a ding on your phone and you'd have a deposit?
Yeah.
Or you'd be sending a photo of a contract and it's now a legally binding document. I mean, it's definitely not going away. And it's definitely a good technology. I think I've told you guys I've used Tidal by using my phone as a hotspot in a parking lot down on the border of Mexico to play a bunch of Norteña songs or something. And it's a lifesaver. And it's certainly helped as a DJ. And it certainly allows for a lot of flexibility as a DJ. But there's definitely times that you just wish it would kind of calm itself down a little bit.
I got kind of excited the other day. And I've been busy. I mean, I've been getting up, checking messages, because I do not have Facebook Messenger on my phone. Otherwise, I would never get anything done. So if you don't know my phone number, you can't contact me on mobile. You have to know my phone number, which is helpful. If I had Messenger on my phone, it'd be a nightmare. Because anybody could just contact me for any old thing. So I go downstairs, I check Facebook Messenger messages or any emails, whatever, and then I leave. But sometimes I'm half asleep when I do this because I'm always oversleeping to get out. So I got one the other day and I'm scanning it. And it says, hey, I'm this Chicago, I book DJs and I'm looking for somebody in Milwaukee. I'm reading it quickly. And I'm seeing, this is offshore. Okay, I'm looking, like, scanning. You scan things, you don't like sit down and really read it. You're just scanning for keywords. Offshore. So I'm like, yacht. Okay. 15 gigs in the month of June, $1,500 a piece.
Wow.
I'm like, hey, you know what? That's pretty cool. That'd be a really, really nice month.
Sure.
Oh no, 10 gigs, 1,500 a piece. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah. And so I just hit him back really quick. Yeah, sorry, I've been busy, but I'm interested, please contact me. And I leave. Then the next day I look at it again and he's, trying to get a hold of me. It wasn't offshore, it was in store. And it wasn't 1,500 a gig, it was 150 a gig. at like Boost mobile stores in the ghetto. And I'm looking at like, and I'm looking at the dates. I'm going, you know what? There is a couple conflicting dates here. I'm probably not your guy. And there are. I'm not lying to him. But
right.
Yeah. So it was just funny because I thought I'd really blown it. This was the sweet gig that I blew it because I wasn't like responding to my messenger fast enough. And then when he hits me back, oh yeah, I'll try to call you. Here's my number. Like, thumbs up. If you can't find anybody for this, there's a problem. Oh, there it is in the fine print.
Yeah. He's already told you there's a problem.
Or in the
You just
big
didn't
print.
catch
But I didn't know it. I read it wrong. I think
Yeah.
offshore. I'm like, okay, yacht club. It's behind my house. Ooh, we're on a boat.
15,000 a gig. 10 what? This is
Yeah, right.
It's like
Awesome.
eh.
Yeah.
2-hour shift. Yeah. Wow. This is too good to be true.
Whoa.
Womp
Hey.
womp. Yeah.
Gonna retire in June. No.
Yeah.
No.
It's 20 hours a gig. 15.
Yeah, I'm gonna make $15,000 in the month of June. This is awesome. And then
Yeah, right.
no. You know, something I wanted. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. I was just gonna say I still get the like, are you available, comma, my daughter, comma, wedding in your area. And it's like the fake ones. And some of them have gotten good enough where they've figured out the language barrier. So they're like, hi, I am, and they only give their first name now instead of their full, the full name. And I need a great DJ for my daughter's wedding. And instead of using the empty lot addresses, they're using home addresses. And you've got to still do the like, hi, thanks so much for contacting me. Like, can you tell me more about the event?
Mm-hmm.
Do you accept credit cards? Okay, so it's fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
They're not following the line of dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah, they're figuring out not to ask that immediately
And
anymore.
by the way, I'm a
They're
Nigerian
waiting.
prince. Yeah.
Well, but the sad thing is, every DJ show I attend, at some point, someone will say in front of me, man, I still can't believe I got screwed on that one text. And I mean, you can't warn people enough. When you talk about money and work, people jump on it. They believe it sometimes. They buy into it and go, oh, this is an opportunity. So what? I got to pay the wedding planner. Big deal. It's like,
Yeah, it's fun out there. And I'm really happy that I don't have to deal with it that much anymore. And that's something I kind of wanted to touch on tonight a little bit. I wanted to do a video on this on my channel, but I thought it would be fun to do it with you guys. I was thinking about, the grind. Okay, is what we're talking about. Going out and getting the work and fielding all the clients and holding their hands, and the reward is great, but boy, there's a lot of work leading up to it. We earn our money for this stuff. We really do. The club gig, on the other hand, I mean, it's going places. It really is for me. And I know I'm in a real unique situation, but I thought maybe for those of us here who have done this type of work, and I know, Jay, I know you have, John, I know you have, some of you others may have too. I was thinking it would be really cool to spend the next, what do we got left? 17 minutes talking about some tips on how to land the right, we'll call it a residency. It could be a club, it could be a bar, it could be anything. What do you do? How do you do it? What do you look for? What do you avoid? I thought it would be an interesting topic. Does anyone else think that would be an interesting topic?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I need to get my notepad out and just jot all this down.
I have thoughts.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a really, really, really talented DJ today who I think you guys would be impressed with if you heard his sets. He's incredibly good. Him and I feel exactly the same way about what you take, what you don't take. We were just having a conversation about it. We're two different types of DJs, but we're on the same page with a lot of this stuff on the business end of things. And just
You said you're not telling anybody we talked today, Brian. What?
I'm sorry. Now, this guy's like a DJ for the Milwaukee Brewers, and he's done some pretty amazing things. And he's an older guy too, but he just is amazing. Top notch with his mixes and things. Anyway, yeah. So tips on this stuff, and I thought maybe we just go around the room on some of this stuff for those of you who have some tips. I think the first tip that I would throw out there for anybody who is interested in doing bar or club work is, jobs come along, and when you're hungry, you take things. You'll take the bar, you'll take whatever it is. If you're serious about doing this type of work, I would highly suggest that you find a place that you're comfortable in and you feel safe. And that sounds stupid, but there's some things out there. I've been hit in the head with beer bottles, and it wasn't because they were throwing them at me. I was trying to
Collateral damage.
protect the damsel in distress at the time, but that was the wrong bar to work in.
Yeah.
And I knew it, but I was there for the money.
Yeah.
But the safety wasn't there. The vibe wasn't there. It was just the wrong place. So my first tip that I want to throw out there is find a place that you are comfortable in. If you're not comfortable in the establishment, no matter how much they're paying, you might want to pass and go someplace where you feel comfortable.
That's a good point.
I think you need to go. I got offered a residency when I first moved to Temecula at a kind of Benihana style restaurant that on Thursday nights had 3 DJs working.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought your own gear, speakers and everything. And they had it broken down to a big patio, a main room, and then another room that they would use for functions. So it would be like, like a housey guy, a hip hop guy, and then kind of a whatever guy. And somebody approached me and it was like too good to be true. He was the promoter. He knew me. He'd seen videos, this and that. Knew I was with Pioneer, so that carried a little cred. But he was like, yeah, dude, $500 a night. It's a Thursday. It's 3 hours. I'm like, I'm in.
Sure.
But this little voice in my head was like, I just moved here. I'd only lived here for like 3 or 4 months. I don't know the clientele yet.
Right.
Like San Diego, I kind of had a vibe of where the club was and what the crowd would be, but I didn't know what Temecula was. So I thought, you know what? Unbeknownst to him, I'm going to go to this place before I really say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in and I didn't have anything in common with anybody. Now, that doesn't always mean don't do it.
Right.
But I looked at the audience and I didn't just leave, I stayed. I don't think I even had a drink. I think I just hung out and I watched how the night went and just what I expected because, I've worked in clubs like you have, Brian. You get that sixth sense about an audience. Right. You kind of know where this is going to be at 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And just what I thought the club ran from like 10 to 2 and 10 o'clock to 11 was one attitude. 11 to 12 was different. 12 to 1 was even.
We should have stopped at 12.
Done there.
Yeah. I went back to him and I was like, yeah, dude, it's not a good fit for me. He's like, really? Well, I don't understand. Like, it's 3 hours, $500. I'm like, you know what? I don't get the audience. Like, I can show up and play house, but that's not what I saw. You gave me a house, hip hop, and whatever. And what I saw was just like real ratchety, bunch of bros, like the flip baseball cap, big pickups, guys with socks to their knees. I'm like, dude, this isn't my kind of crowd. Like I can play to anybody, but they're not going to be responsive because I watched them interact with the DJs that were already there. And it was constant, like running up to the DJs with requests.
Right.
And the DJ would have a vibe going and then totally 360 it. And I'm like, yeah, dude, this isn't what I'm about.
Right.
And the club gigs the ones I did accept were like, you're following a tribute band. I played at a casino for a year. You're following a tribute band. And that went south because of the ownership. But, at least I knew what I was in for. I mean, I'm playing after a 2-hour Tom Petty tribute. Okay, so I can play that for an hour, and then I've got to play the new dancey hip hop stuff. That's fine, no problems. But I highly suggest before you even consider taking a gig, go to the venue and watch. Don't drink, don't party, don't dance. Watch and see what the crowd is like, because the crowd will make or break the DJ.
There's one Captain Obvious tip I want to throw out there. I mean, if you guys have tips, please just throw them out there. But and a lot of and these are just my tips. This is not gospel. Do whatever you want. I'm just making some suggestions based on my tenure on this crap. So you might not like this one. Jay knows it. Jay does it. Don't drink at these events.
Nope.
Right. Don't drink. And in fact, just tell them you don't drink.
Yeah, that's
it's too tempting. It's tempting, and it will go south so quickly.
When I was a kid, of course I did.
Yeah.
Every chance I got, I had something to drink. But it was pointed out to me, and many years ago, and I've mentioned this before, and I won't harp on it. I just wanted to mention it. Somebody had said to me, "Look, if you get in a fight with a drunk guy and you're sober, the cops are going to haul away the drunk guy.
Right.
If you both have alcohol in you, the cops are going to haul you both away."
Yep.
So that's all I had to hear.
I have one tip for you guys. Don't burn bridges ever.
Good tip.
Amen.
If you part ways, make sure that you're amicable and it's all okay, because things come back to you. And just from my youth, I never burned bridges. People remembered me, and they graduated college and they had all kinds of money. And all of a sudden they're buying a bar. And it's like, hey, who do I know that can do that? Oh, hey, I'll call Howie.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay. You're new to this, obviously. And well, what do you think? And I gave him a price. He goes, wow, that's a lot. And I said, yeah, but I know how to turn over a crowd. And they're like, well, what does that mean? I go, I'm going to turn over your dance floor because then you're going to make more money the more drinks you sell. They're not coming necessarily to see me. And then he was like, he just lit up like, this is my guy because he knows the business.
Yep.
Right.
He gets it. Yep.
Well, I just went through that with Tour Source.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus, I hadn't spoken to Jason. Well, I talked to him about 10 years ago at a funeral. Before that, it was, closer to 20 years ago when we were in school, or actually more than that. What am I saying? 30 years ago when we were in school, but whatever it was. And yeah, he just knew me by reputation. And yeah, that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
And kind of related to that, I was going to mention something else. And I understand that some places are very fly by night. Some places, they're open for a year and then they close or whatever. But there are some places that do stick around.
Yeah.
And whatever environment you're working in, doesn't matter what it is, be it a bar, be it a club, or be it whatever. When it comes to the staff, be nice to everyone.
Oh, yes.
Because you never know who's next in line.
They can make or break you.
Yeah, goes a long way for sure.
And I'm talking everybody.
They might be the next manager.
I'll tell you a vague story that happened to me on Saturday. There's this bartender that I work with very well at the club, and he's a cool guy. And we've done some stuff together. We've worked really well.
You partied, right?
No, no, we don't. No, I don't drink. Remember, that's.
You're hitting the pipe. Okay.
Yeah, we're not even hitting the pipe together. No, but
Peruvian dancing magic.
I'm keeping an eye on the bar. I'm making sure that we're rotating the bar. We're in close communication with everything. Good guy. At any rate, I'm talking to him outside. We're just kind of taking a break, and he asked me what I was making. I told, and he knew what it was, and I said, yeah, I confirmed it. And he said, you should be making this number that's substantially more. And I'm like, well, that would be really nice. He says, just so you know, I just took the new assistant management position here.
Wow. Did I call it or what? I don't know who the next manager is going to be. That was
no, I wasn't being nice to him.
That was awesome.
He's going to be the next person who's going to be doing the schedule. I was nice to him just because I try to be nice to everyone.
Yeah.
But even if you're not genuinely a nice person, fake it and be nice to everybody.
Sincerity is the hardest thing to fake. Yeah.
My rule, Brian, every time I worked at the casino, my rule was walk over to the staff and get all their names.
Yeah.
So I could give the bartenders and waitresses, hey, if you need a drink at the table, we've got, Sally, Colleen, this one, that one. On the bar, of course, you've got Julia on the left bar. You've got John on the right bar. If you guys need drinks, let them know. Hey, you run into any questions? We've got Thor and, Carl at the door. And it was my way of making sure that Carl and Thor, the doormen, knew that I knew who they were, gave them respect, But also, if I needed to yell their name out, they'd already heard their name once.
Yeah.
Now I got them in the moment of they're going to listen later on in the night. If I go like, hey, I'd love to see Thor come down to the stage for a second or whatever.
Mhm.
But I found every time you shout out somebody in the club, it elevates their position.
Yes.
Waitress, bartender, show them some love, this and that. And you know what, Brian, you may want to explain to anyone that's new to the club scene or bar scene what you mean by rotating the dance floor.
I will get to that. But first, I want to know what Eric had his finger up. He had something to say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This kind of goes back to what you were saying, Brian. When you said, be comfortable in where you're working. Make sure you're not looking at your watch the whole 4 hours of the night.
Right.
Yeah.
Or your phone.
Yeah.
Right. My tip is this: it's no matter where you're at, give it 110%, no matter what and where you are, because you never know. Like in Jay's situation, or it happened to me once, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but you never know who's going to be in there that evening, unexpectedly.
Even on a slow night, give it out.
I was at a dive. I remember the bar. I'll say it because they're gone. It was Friends Pizza in Lowell, Mass. And it was like a once-a-month rotation where they had 4 different DJs. And I'm there and I'm giving it my all. And this guy walks up, well-dressed guy. He said, "You're a wasted talent here." And I shook his hand and said, "Oh, well, thanks." I said, "Well, it's all I got right now." He goes, he owned the club in Drake at Mass. And I know Jay's going to laugh because this is where I got my first club gig.
No, not at all.
It was, of course it's north of Boston, but it was a huge club, neon light. It was great. That's where I got my first club residency, and it was 3-4 nights a week. Now, again, another tip, don't put all your eggs in one basket. What I did, so when they ended up closing, I had nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's
many times I've been guilty of that one.
I think we've all done that.
Thanks.
Guilty. Yeah.
Another tip I wanted to throw out there is that you need to play to the audience in front of you. If you are going in there with this idea in your head that, well, I'm an EDM DJ or I'm a hip hop DJ or I'm a trance DJ or house DJ or whatever the case might be, and the crowd in there isn't really feeling it, switch it up.
You got to
learn how to switch gears. Yep. Especially in an environment like that. Absolutely.
And here's why. And this is almost another tip built into here, or just something that I think needs to be pointed out. When we are hired to do something like a wedding reception, right? They ask for all kinds of things. They want these things just because they want them, right? And you do them, all right? There's no money to be made from your clients for you doing these things. They just want these things, right? When you're working at a club or a bar, it's a business. If the club doesn't make money and the people don't stick around, you're useless. So if you go in there being self-indulgent, it's a problem. What you want to do, like Jay was mentioning earlier, is try to rotate that bar crowd. You rotate them. If you've had a group on the dance floor that's been dancing really heavy for half an hour, guess what? They haven't ordered a drink in a half an hour.
Yeah.
Change it up, because the people at the bar might want to hear something else, and they might come out. Those people might go, it was really good until you played that song, and walk to the bar and get a cocktail.
Right.
And then once you learn how to do that, because I was doing it by mistake when I was younger, just because I liked to change formats. I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was rotating the bar. What you can do after you know you're doing it and you can see you're doing it is you can go up to the bar and you can say things like, "Let me ask you something. Do you make more money when I work?" "Oh, absolutely." I was curious if because that's the kind of stuff that they say to management later on. "Hey, guess what? We make a lot more money when this guy works. Maybe we need him to work more and we need to pay him more."
Yeah, give him like another night and boop up his money a little bit. Like if I go into some place that's new, I look for where the 2 gold pipes are at the bar, because that's the waitress station, and I try to get real close to that, because the manager tends to come there a lot. Yeah. And I was sitting there, the last place I worked before the COVID lockdown, and I was just sitting there. I just went alone, and I'm just minding my business, and I'd see him come by just to get the receipts and just see where he's at for the night. And and the DJ was playing. It was, I think he did 2 nights a week, and then they were trying to get some new talent in there. And I was approached by the owner of the place. Said, "We'd like to see if we can get you in there." He says, "Well, what do you think of the entertainment?" I said, "Well, the last 18 songs he's played have all been reggaeton." Right. Like, yeah, they all mix together great, but it's been the same song for, I don't know, the better part of 35 minutes. Is this what we're going to hear? Right. He says, "Well, what would you do differently?" I says, "Well, why don't you bring me in some night and I'll show you. I'll come in and I'll do a night that's quieter and let's see if we can make it hop in here." And the guy got in, and then all of a sudden it was, you had 1 night a week. Now you're doing 3 nights a week.
You make a really good point. You make a really good point, John.
And you were prepared. And I think that's what DJs need to understand. You got to get your entire arsenal put together, because you may have to go from, I'm doing house to hip hop to reggaeton to reggae to Barry Manilow. I mean, you have no clue sometimes what might come up that night. But if you're in a residency long enough, you figure out the crowd and they start coming for you. One thing I want to say real quick, Brian, is as a former DJ / bartender / manager at one club where I started my DJ career, one of the things I'd learned decades ago from a boss who was awesome at it, if you're going to make an announcement, they come up to you and say, "Hey, at midnight, make this announcement." And it's maybe different now with phones than watches when I started. But the rule of thumb he told me was never announce anything on the hour. Because you give people, if they realize it's 12 o'clock, oh man, let's get going. If you say something at 10 after 12, they might think, oh, you know what? Damn, it's 10 after 12. Let's bounce at 12:30.
Yeah, time to go.
Yeah.
But you give them a leeway. You go quarter of the hour, you go quarter after the hour. Try to get stuff announced in such a way that you don't make your crowd want to leave. They're more anticipating, like, hey, going to be doing a drink special in about 10 minutes. They'll stick around, even if that 10 minutes gets them in there half an hour later.
We only have like a minute left, but I wanted to just say this before we wrap this. And we might, if you guys like this, we'll do more next week. We didn't have a lot of time to do this because I think we're just kind of getting warmed up on a lot of this.
Yeah.
But what John had said about, explaining to management, what would you do different? Here's something that I can tell you from experience. I don't believe I've ever met anyone who manages a bar who really knows what we do. They don't really understand what we do. They don't understand rotating the dance floor and getting people off. They don't know, oh, the DJ plays music. Oh, they mix well. Or, oh, I like the songs they're playing. But they don't really understand our purpose as well as I believe they should.
They don't know the method,
but they don't.
Look how much money they make versus how much they pay. A bar can make 20 grand in a night, and they look around for $150 DJ to keep that crowd drinking. It's the most insane thing. When I was a DJ and a manager, I was like, you got to be kidding me. The most important person here is the DJ, because they can send my crowd right out the door to the next club next door. I need that guy to keep them in my bar, keep this a good party, be able to switch on a dime. If I run up and go, hey, I just let in 20 people, they're all in their 50s, drop a couple of those tracks for me. And they would immediately go, yes, not, well, I'm kind of in a house vibe. No, you're kind of, your
kind of
job is for us
we were kind of in a house vibe.
Well, because
now we're playing humanly.
Being at house vibe back at the house.
Well, and the game is eventually you want to negotiate a new contract that says, hey, you know what? How about you pay me the same amount of money, but give me 5% of the sales for the night?
I think you kind of have to point out to management, hey, what happens? Do you see a difference?
Yeah.
On nights
you want to watch me clear your bar?
I don't know that they think about it. They just, maybe they like you, but is it different? Are you making more money with me?
That's important. If we say those words to them, now it's top of mind. You're like, oh, yeah, that is an interesting concept.
Thought of it, maybe we do. And, we're out of time, folks. It's been good, though, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was great.
I would love to continue this maybe next week. If you guys
we'll do it.
You can talk more about it.
Same bad channel.
Come up with some new stuff. But I think there's stuff to be said about this. You can learn a lot.
Absolutely.
And it carries over to mobile, too. So don't worry, mobile guys. We're not leaving you out.
No,
we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for watching.